So I'm calling this meeting to order. And roll call.
Here's the three of us. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, I guess we're being recorded. Gabrielle Beatty, present.
Jim Lindsay is present.
Lisa Schneider is present.
and Chair Jordan will be late.
Okay.
And Ms. Raddick Johnson is excused.
Can we go on to approve the minutes before Preston arrives?
So we have a quorum, so.
Okay.
The minutes are not in this packet, is that right?
The second page.
Oh. Gotcha.
And I have hard copy if anyone needs it. Oh,
Oh, it's on the second
We all
page.
have them in
I just didn't realize.
Have hard copy for the public. if-
All of the members of the public that normally come. Usually we get 50, 100 people, and there's nobody tonight. Yeah.
It's unusual.
Yeah.
Must be the change of venue, I guess.
Oh, yeah, exactly. They're intimidated by the space.
I don't have any corrections to the minutes.
Right. It's as I remember them also.
okay. Is that a
Oh,
first and a second?
move to approve the minutes as they are here.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't see any members of the public here. Are there any announcements or communications from the committee members? Okay, then we'll move on to item 6.1, referral from the City Council reviewing of a charter amendment for transition from elected to appointed city treasurer.
I actually have a suggestion, since somebody might actually be listening to this on YouTube. Maybe we could just read the agenda, so if they're interested in a later point, they can know to skip ahead or something.
Okay? Do we have any volunteers?
Our city clerk or, yeah.
Okay.
6.1, referral from the City Council, reviewing of a charter amendment to transition from elected to appointed city treasurer. We are to review the draft charter amendment for submittal to the City Council. And the proposed charter modification to the section that affects the city treasurer is attached. It's section 3.01 in the charter, in the city charter.
And then just the other item, the other three, so that they know.
Oh, are we,
I'm imagining that somebody listening might be interested in a different spot.
oh, I
And
see.
so if they knew what was on there, they could skip ahead in the video to try to catch what they're
Okay.
interested in.
Got it.
So
Okay.
I'm just suggesting we tell them what the other points are.
So 6-2 is changes to allow age limit for voting. We are to receive update as available from subcommittee regarding a possible change to the age limit for voting. 6-3 is enhanced election result data. Discuss desired election result data, including cast selection record reporting to determine drop-off rate for all local elections. Determine whether a subcommittee should be developed to work on this matter further or next steps. And 6-4 is cost estimate for analysis to determine if voting in Albany is polarized in a manner prohibited by California Voting Rights Act. And we're to receive update as available to obtain cost estimate per council's direction.
Okay. So why don't we move ahead with item 6.1, which is the charter amendment to transition from elected to appointed city treasurer. Any comments?
I'll volunteer to read it again for somebody who's listening.
Okay.
So section 3.01 is about officers and employees. It currently reads, all officers and department heads, except as otherwise provided, shall be appointed by the city council and shall hold office at the pleasure of the city council. And then the proposal is to strike the phrase, except as otherwise provided. So it says, all officers and department heads shall be appointed by the city council and shall hold office at the pleasure of the city council. And then it's proposed to strike this sentence, which says, the next sentence, which says, the city treasurer shall be elected from the city at large and shall hold office for 4 years until a successor is elected and qualified. So that would be struck if we do this to elect it, to appoint it instead of elected. Then we would keep the next section, which is effective at the November 2010 election. The city attorney shall be elected from the city at large for a term ending on December 5th, 2011, which is historical, and commencing December 6th, 2011, or sooner if there is a vacancy in the office, the city attorney shall be appointed by the city council as provided herein. So that's all historical. And then a new sentence would be put in saying effective December 1st, 2020, or sooner if there is a vacancy in the office, the city treasurer shall be appointed by the city council as provided herein. The rest of it, we would keep the old language, and that's, I'll just finish it here. The council shall establish by ordinance the administrative offices of the city and shall designate the department heads of the city. The city council shall be empowered to create, abolish, or reorganize departments and divisions as necessary for the proper administration of city business, but not inconsistent with other sections of this charter. That's not a change. That's the existing charter. And then there's a section in there that says when, over historically from 1967 to 2010, when this section has been changed.
So I have a question. Since we're revising this section anyway, is it beyond the purview of our purview to suggest just removing some of the historic language about the 2010 and 2011, just to keep the charter as simple as possible?
That was what I was thinking, but Anne, do you have some concerns about that?
Yeah, I checked with the city manager about this. There's a reason to keep it historical, to keep the historical on it, just so that we know in the future when it got removed and.
Well, they could.
So, go ahead.
Couldn't they also look that up based on when all the revisions happened?
Yes, but I guess it's just easier, more obvious if you look at it and.
Then I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I
Patty.
said okay.
Yeah. I would recommend having a parallel construction for the language around the treasurer, unless there's some significant difference between the treasurer and the attorney, because I think they're both officers and/or employees. So why not say, if we need to keep the language about, historical language about the attorney, why not say at the beginning of
We do have it. It's effective December 1st, 2020, or sooner.
well, no, wait a minute. The second strikeout that says the city treasurer shall be elected from the city at large, okay? At the beginning of that, put effective, and then whatever the date was when that was effective, and then move up the new language right after that sentence. It says effective December 1, 2020, or sooner if there is a vacancy in the office, et cetera. And that way there will be a parallel construction that tracks the way we describe the city attorney.
Does that make,
I think.
so does that make sense, Ann? I can explain.
Well,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to, because I was on the charter review committee when we added that. But I think it already is parallel, because that whole section is all about the city attorney. So if you move that the city treasurer sentence up, you would cut the attorney, the language on the attorney in half? Is that what?
No, that's not what I'm proposing. What I'm proposing to do is to keep the second strikeout, the one that begins, the city treasurer shall be elected.
Oh,
Keep that, but, and at the beginning of it, insert effective.
I see what you're saying.
Whenever that became effective. And then right after that sentence, move up the sentence about effective December 1, 2020 or sooner, then the city treasurer shall be appointed.
I think the reason why that sentence is in there for the attorney is because they happened at the same time. So right now, this is being inserted in time that there isn't going to be another election for the treasurer, but there was it was on the same ballot.
Is that the reasoning for that? Then my second recommendation, if we're not going to go that route, would be, I'm not sure that we can strike except as otherwise provided here, because there is still a stub period before 2020, when if the treasurer were to resign or something,
No, it
It
says,
says, or sooner if there's a vacancy.
or sooner. Oh, you're right.
Lisa?
Gotcha. Okay.
I'll tell you what my preference would be. Because the problem that I have with this is that charters are hard for people to read, and stuff like this just makes it harder. And I know that there's not many people, who read charters for fun. I get that, but still, we ought to make it as readable as we can. I mean, anyway, I feel pretty strongly about that, but my preference would be to either strike all the historical stuff, especially the city attorney, right?
Yeah,
That stuff, which was you also suggested. And I just don't buy that it needs to be there, or else why don't we have everything that happened in 67, 68, 75, 76, 81, 2001, and 2010? Because we cleaned it up back then. That's why. So it's easy enough if somebody really wants to know, then they can go see when this happened. So that would be my preference, just delete it. However, I have a secondary proposal. If we don't want to delete it now, maybe we want to delete it in 5 or 10 years, or something. We could at least take that section. I just find it very awkward. It's smack dab in the middle. And let's have the top section be what we're actually doing now. And that could get moved down below into 3.01B or however it's structured. What do we do? 3.01 dot. I'm trying to look at subsections in here. Anyway, it could be 3.01A and a 3.01B or something, where the B would be historical information, and then that could go in there in addition to the amended ratified stuff, so that all the historical info was there, but the actual current state of the state of the city charter shouldn't be sort of muddied up with changes we made in 2010. Let's make this the idea being, let's make it easier to read.
so the underlined sentence, you want to move it up to after city council and shall hold office at the pleasure of the city council.
The underlined sentence, my A plan, if you will, we just strike the sentence that says effective at the November 2010 election. Those two sentences.
well, you'd have to leave you'd have to leave the clause that says the city attorney shall be appointed by the city. Well, actually, it already says all officers and department heads.
Exactly.
So those two sentences that start with effective at the November 2020 election and ending with the city council, the city attorney shall be appointed by the city council as provided herein, are no longer necessary because it says all officers and department heads shall be appointed by the city council. Boom, done. We also, I suppose we need the effective December 20, at least we need that temporarily till we can clean it up later.
Yeah.
You know,
What if we just leave it
Well,
this way, and then after 2020, after, when city treasurer is cleaned up, then we clean it up all together?
you could.
Because that way we have, the two positions that were elected cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean, I could live with that because I'm more concerned about the long term. Who cares about the next 3 years? I mean, in terms of the charter, nobody will notice. But then I would like to at least move it, to some section, to below, as a historical note or something,
Or, as you pointed out, that there are all these dates as to when it's been, so you could always look up what the previous version was. So I have on this same topic, I have a question, which is, since there's no other language, they're already striking except as otherwise noted.
Yep.
So do we even have to have this added sentence effective December 1st, 2020 or sooner? Because that just means
Because
effective at the point.
No, because currently she's still elected.
Right, but if even without adding this, we're changing it to say all officers and department heads shall be appointed.
I think we need the sentence, and here's why I think we need it. Because if we strike it, then that implies that she's in office illegally.
No. Except, you know what, you're right. Because the other part of the clause is, and shall hold office at the pleasure of the city council.
Yeah.
And she won't be until her term expires.
Yeah. So I think we need that for at least
That's fair.
a round or something, a couple, 5
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
something like that. But I would just like to not see this all be like in one mushy, muddled up paragraph. It's an editing thing. If we're not going to strike the city attorney one, which, I'm interested in what the other two members think, but if we're not going to strike the city attorney one, let's at least get it out of the way, and just move it down to I would move it down to a section B, and I would put the amended ratified in parentheses that's there, just the list of changes into section B also, right? Just,
So then do you want to keep the city treasurer, the effective date?
Yeah, I think we need to because,
No.
yeah.
I think she's saying, do you want to also move that down too, so that, if they're both in like a subsection or separate subsections, then it's cleaner all over.
That's true. So if the effective was the first part of it, right? It's the most important change we're making. The second part could be, the effective December 1st, the underlined item, which is clarifying that we're about to make a change in 2020, basically. The second one, which is purely historical, that would be like the second part of section B. And the third part of section B would be the amended ratified, So then the first sentence would read, if we did all this, then the way the charter would read would be, all officers and department heads shall be appointed by the city council and shall hold office at the pleasure of the city council. The council shall establish by ordinance the administrative offices of the city and shall designate the department heads of the city. City council shall be empowered to create, abolish, or reorganize departments and divisions as necessary for the proper administration of city business, but not inconsistent with other sections of the charter, which I think that's what the charter is saying, once this change is made, assuming that the voters approve it. That's a big sigh.
Well, because as I'm reading this over and over, because then I'm thinking about what we were talking about before, how, the person is currently elected and has a term that's not going to change until 2020. So that it still seems like it still kind of falls under the except as otherwise provided. I'm sorry, it's a different tangent than what you were saying, because we
agree.
still have an except as otherwise provided clause here.
No, but it's
which
being
is
stricken.
Effective December 1st, 2020.
Oh,
Because that's
yeah.
that person doesn't serve at the pleasure of the city council. They're not appointed and serving at the pleasure of the city council until
But I'm
2020.
proposing that be the first sentence in B.
So I guess as a subsection, but I'm saying, I'm just having trouble right now with the except as otherwise provided going away right away until 2020.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Except
That was-
as otherwise provided, do you think we should keep it there?
Well,
Wait, that's a different thing than what I'm proposing.
I know that, but that was what my sigh was.
Oh. Well,
I'm sorry, I didn't
I would
mean to go
propose
out
we
tangent.
take these one at a time.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Chair, what's your,
Hi, Jordan.
We can take them one at a time.
no, but what's your thought on the issue?
My first choice would be to get rid of the historical stuff about the attorney, because it's not as if, old charters get torn up and shredded. There'll be a record of it somewhere. My second choice would be to section it, sort of along the lines that Jim has proposed, into what is currently effective, and here's this historical stuff, including this very recent change.
And you said it was the city manager that recommended leaving that section in? What, did the city attorney mention anything about that?
This is.
But this is his,
Is from the city attorney.
yeah,
Wait,
he drafted.
well, yeah, we understand that this is from the city attorney, but you also asked the city, you had a discussion with the city manager, Ann, and you said, why are we leaving that in there? And she said, for historical reasons. I mean, I respect the city manager and the city attorney, right? So how about we sort of compromise and we move it into a section B? It's in there for those who want it, but we clean it up, right?
Yep.
And I can give you my notes or something if that's helpful.
It would be section A, right?
The top part would be section A, I guess, starting with officers and employees.
If there's a.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You want me to bring over to you so you can see it visually?
No, I know what you're saying now, because originally I thought you wanted that main part to be section 3.01, and then there's subsection A and subsection B.
How is the charter, if there's a subsection B, is the title one always an A?
The current charter?
Yeah.
It has a section 301 in it. There are no
No,
subsections.
I meant in the other sections, like when there are subsections A.
I was looking, I was scanning through and I don't see a lot of that.
Section 9.01 or section 8.01.
Oh, they do have As and Bs, yeah.
So maybe we move those down. Do you want one to be A and the other to be B, or just have?
That's what I'm thinking, to be similar to the rest of the charter. So,
I mean, like
so
one effective be its own A and the other effective be its own B?
Oh, I mean, I could live with that, but I was just imagining an A and a B, where A is the long-term state of the charter. It's page 7. So where A is the long-term state of the charter that I read, all the historical stuff goes into section B. So including what's going to become historical, which is effective December 1st, 2020, or sooner if there is a vacancy in the office, the city treasurer should be appointed by the city council as provided herein. So my proposal is to take that sentence, it becomes the first sentence in section B. Then the second two sentences, I guess, would be what's currently above it, which is talking about the city attorney, what happened in 2010 and 2011. And the third part, I guess, or it could be just after section A and B, I'm not really sure what's cleaner, would be the current paragraph that has the list of amendments and when things were ratified and like that. And I kind of have it color-coded on a piece of paper if anybody wants to take a look at it, but it's a little hard to visualize.
I move that. What he said.
Ann, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Okay. So that would be the first part of section B. second part of section B where it says striking, or the third part of section B. And then section A would be the rules. I'll second the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yeah. Just so you know, we still have to pull this, put this through the city attorney to make sure that it's okay.
We're just making a recommendation. The council will do what the council does.
Okay. Motion carries. Okay, the next one. Changes allow age limit for voting, but subcommittee is Ms. Raddick Johnson. She's not here today. So,
I'm also on the subcommittee. I can
Oh,
say
you
that
are.
they-
I'm
the-
sorry.
No, it's okay. We did not get a chance to meet, since the last meeting, so there's no update at this moment.
no update. So 6.3, enhanced election result data.
Yeah, so nothing other to report there than I'm still working through the League of Women Voters. So that's the status. I finally decided to write a letter for the Alameda County Council Chair to send to the registrar, and things just move slowly in the league, so. It's known for that, and I appreciate that as a member of the league, being on the board. So
So it's still in progress.
still in
Kind
progress,
of,
yep.
that's going, because the second part, determine whether a subcommittee should be developed. Do you feel like you want to keep going at this, or do you want to have?
I think that could stay on there for such time as the league gets some traction.
Okay.
And then at that point, maybe we form a subcommittee based on what the league finds out from the registrar.
And have you, I think
Talking about-
Nicole had tried talking to the registrar about this, but I can't remember what had happened, if she didn't get a response or,
I don't think we don't have a response yet. We don't have a response.
maybe it might be worth giving it another shot, because it's been a while. It's been probably 6 months since we last asked. I think it's reasonable to say, as a follow-up, you know? Because the more data we have, the more accurate and useful our analyses are. So, and they've done this in the past, haven't they?
Yeah, 2004,
So it's not like it ain't doable.
right?
I mean, just saying.
Yeah, 2004 was the prior equipment. I mean, you would think
Right.
it wouldn't drop capabilities, but it was the prior system.
I think it's just a little bit harder to get speedy answer from them now
Yeah,
because they're working elections.
Oh, well, maybe you could ask after the election. That's a good point. After they've certified the election, because they're going to be working very hard until they've certified it. Then they probably collapse for a couple weeks. But, you know, but sometime before our next meeting anyway, you could try, right?
I could try,
Yeah.
see if they respond.
Yeah.
and if you want any help with the ask, I'm happy to help.
Yeah. I just know I have asked a couple questions, and it's been kind of slow, them
Right.
getting answers back.
Are they getting answers back to you at all?
One I did get back, so at one point we were checking about mail-in ballot.
I mean, I
Mail.
just find that shocking. The registrar's office does not answer a question from a city clerk, a city in their county.
Of which there's only 14.
I mean, that's just, am I missing something?
They tell you that they're still working on it too. You know, not all of them know all the answers either, so.
Yeah.
So I would definitely try. It doesn't hurt to send them an email just to follow up.
I'm not as bothered on this one issue as the greater issue of them blowing off city clerks of their own county. That's just weird. Am I missing something here?
No, but it's familiar to us in corporate life that analogous things might happen.
Interesting. I was going to lay it off on Monopoly, but
I mean,
apparently not.
I don't know what to do about this, but it's almost like I'd like to sick our mayor on him or something. Say, come on now, because that's just weird.
Yeah, I'll send an email to follow up and see what they say. See how long, before they get back. Probably after next Tuesday's election, though. I'll send them one.
Okay,
And then we can revisit
sure.
July. And so, because I think you've become city clerk since the question was last asked.
I'm sorry?
I think you have become city clerk since the question was last asked, this particular reporting
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Yes, because this was last discussed when Nicole was still.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
So if you need any briefing or help or anything formulating the question, I'd be
Okay.
happy to help. Maybe you don't. Maybe you understand it completely.
I will have to ask the questions.
Okay, all right. Very good.
So,
So that's that item.
we going next one?
Oh, am I still?
I guess I can keep going. I mean, I guess I'll go. Thank you very much. Threw you in the breach there.
Odin to the rescue.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks very much for taking over there. Ended up in a parking garage that didn't take a credit card, if you can believe that.
What?
Right next to the capital of our esteemed state.
So did you have to go wash the dishes before you were allowed to leave?
Almost. Oh, it was came
Take out the garbage or something?
really close to that, actually.
Wow.
I almost couldn't get an ATM to work. Anyway, so moving on to 6-4, cost estimate for analysis to determine if voting in Albany is polarized in a manner prohibited by Voting Rights Act. I just put this on the agenda. There may not be anything to report, but if it's not here, then
Yeah, I don't
There's
have
nothing.
any cost estimate at this time.
Okay.
yet, and I've been pretty busy working on
yeah,
the time-sensitive stuff.
sure, absolutely. I did see an article the other day that said Manteca had the analysis that our council's asked for done specifically, which is a bit different than, sort of that there's that difference between once the CVRA kicks off or once the city is moving towards districts, then the analysis to move towards districts is different than the analysis of figuring out if there's a violation of the California Voting Rights Act. And Manteca specifically proactively had the analysis of, is there racially polarized voting that's resulting in underrepresentation for some groups done? So I think I sent you the list of all the cities that I was aware of that had proactively moved on this issue, but I didn't know if they'd just gone to districts or if they'd done this analysis first. And so at least according to the media, if it's accurate, Manteca did do this analysis first or did contract for this analysis first.
That's great to know,
Yeah.
because that's exactly the situation we're in.
Right. So presumably
Yeah.
finding what vendor they used at least would be
Yeah, the
Helpful.
couple of the workshop I went to, people were asking, well, did you guys go to district election because you got the letter? And most of them says yes,
Oh, yeah.
right. Yeah.
Like, most of them weren't voluntarily moving into.
Right. Yeah, I think of the 45 that started shifting in 2017, maybe 5 were doing it voluntarily and 40 were doing it in response to a letter or a lawsuit. So kind of needle in a haystack, but
Yeah, I mean, it's the way the CVRA is currently structured, is that you get the letter and you're strongly incentivized, if you're a city, when you get that threat letter, to move to districts. That's the way it's been structured as far as I can tell, intentionally. So, you know, any lawyer in the state, if they can claim reasonably that you're racially polarized, reasonable claim, can force you to go to districts, and that's what's happening.
Well, to be clear, it's not, because I think the conversation's gotten confused around this. It's not racially polarized voting. It's racially polarized voting that, combined with an election system, results in
Right.
underrepresentation for certain groups.
Right. And
you can have
racially
racial-
polarized voting and a protected group is not getting representation.
Right.
Yes.
That's
yes.
key.
Right. If they can reasonably claim that, they can send you a threat letter. If you get that threat letter and you're a city, you are really incentivized to go to districts. And that's what's happening.
Yep. So if there's nothing else on that,
Well, I'm sorry, I did have.
Okay,
I was
sure.
wondering, where are we at? Have we sent out requests for quotes or requests for proposals, or has that gone completely back burner?
It went back burner.
Oh, okay.
which, to put it in the record, staff said that to council when when the referral came down. Staff said, "Okay, I don't know when we'll get to this, but you know, we'll get to it."
Do you want any of us to help put together a draft RFP or RFQ?
I don't believe that's, I think the last meeting we discussed, that we're not going the RFP, RFQ route.
Oh, yeah.
My recollection.
Oh, yeah, that is, what did we decide anywhere? What was decided?
We were going to send out just to companies and ask them to give us a range, like a rough estimate.
Isn't that kind of a request on RFP or an RFQ? Light? Am I missing something? Give us a range.
Well, an RFP would be binding, responding to an RFP.
Okay.
And also, RFP is like you're listing all the criterias, and we're trying to gear away from it, if I remember.
Okay, so it's an RFI, request for information?
Yeah, basically, we basically wanted the firms to tell us what questions should we be asking. Actually, well, I mean, we were going to ask the firms, could you give us an example of an RFQ or an RFP to which you've responded that we could use to structure one for Albany, rather than having to invent it from scratch?
Well, now we've got Manteca, though, so we could see what they did.
Sure.
That could be very valuable
Right.
for our city administrators. But if necessary, you know, some subcommittee here could help put together a draft RFI, request for information, you know, and then help get it out, lick stamps and put it in the mail or whatever, you know.
Yeah, last we talked, I did get a couple of company names, but most of them are companies that helped city to go district election. So it's different than what we want to know.
Right. For those who might be listening on YouTube, we could go on for an hour, but basically, the city council has said that they want a report, they want a study done on do we have racially polarized voting and also underrepresented minority. That is, you know, could we reasonably get a threat letter from CVRA, although the city's vote was not structured in that. That's not the words they used, but, you know, that's what it comes down to. And so that's what we're looking at. That's different than drawing up districts to move to district election, right? That's what you're saying, Ann?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, although I would think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would think firms that can do the districting mapping can do this analysis well. I mean, I think it's pretty standard demographic firm work now.
Did you want?
Yeah, to clarify, Ann, did the council commit to doing this study, or they just want the initial cost estimate?
We just want the initial
Yes.
cost.
You're right.
This is my understanding.
Right, that's an important clarification. There are three attorneys who have filed probably 90% of these over the last few years. We didn't want to ask them, I know, okay. Anyway. But I think Preston knows, or other people know, which of these, what companies do these studies, and we could find out, you know, and just ask them for this request for information. That's what city council's told us to do. So, when staff gets clock cycles to do that anyway, we could probably.
I mean, I could just call National Demographic Corporation.
Yeah.
It could be that simple.
Yeah. It's a single phone call.
Is that,
It could get a range.
are you okay if I did that?
I'm okay.
Okay.
As the chair of you can identify himself as the chair of Charter Review Commission. Charter Review was tasked to
Come up
look
with-
into this, can get some information,
Yeah.
get it to our city staff, and
Okay.
Do you have time?
Do I have time? Sure, I have time.
You're working with the League of Women Voters.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so I'll do that. Better make a note.
that's nice because then this will move forward a little bit.
Yeah.
I have to admit that if this study is done, I'm mighty curious about what it'll say.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. All right. Call. All right. Is there any more discussion on item 6.4?
Not from me.
Okay. With that, then I am going to ask that we go back to announcements and communications because I wasn't here and I have some things to convey in that regard. Let's see. So it was a week ago last Saturday. The League of Women Voters had their annual meeting. Councilmember Nason attended, and she spoke to me afterwards about ranked choice voting. And the big takeaway that I got, and I'm sure other things were said. I mean, it was a conversation, but she said that it would be good to have an Asian American person or people like Jennifer representing ranked choice voting to the council. So I subsequently let Jennifer know that. So I did communicate with Jennifer outside of a meeting, and she let me know that she is meeting with Councilmember Nason, or Vice Mayor Nason, I should say, I believe June 5th. I think it's the day after the next council meeting. Subsequent to that exchange, I received email from Jim Lindsay, somewhat to the same effect in terms of a communication that he'd received from Vice Mayor Nason. I did not respond to his email because of concerns about the Brown Act, and I'd already communicated with Jennifer around this issue, so I left it at that.
Okay.
Yep. Alrighty. With that, future agenda items.
I mean, I guess I can say the gist of it was, if it's the email that I think it was, they're very proper there to not respond, given that you had talked to Jennifer about it. I mean, that's why the Brown Act is there. But this is public, so
Right.
just the gist of that was that we need to, if it's the one I'm thinking of, we really need to be consulting with the Asian American organizations in Albany. That's become pretty obvious.
I would say obvious that is her desire.
I think it's wise.
I'm not,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
right, I'm not
Yeah.
disputing it, but it's, I mean, it's a council member's direction to, I would say, individuals of this body.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's
A
worth,
council member can't order the Charter Review Commission to do anything.
Right.
Yeah. No, just my opinion is that's a wise, that's well thought out. That's so.
and I don't even know if there are any such organizations. really
Yeah,
in
I
Albany.
don't either. But there's got to be a community of some sort, maybe not organized, I don't know. So,
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of an Asian American community, from what little I understand, is a bit of a misnomer anyway.
well, yes,
It's not a monolithic community.
to put it mildly.
Yeah.
Being a high school teacher drives me just a little bit nuts when I hear people say Asian. Because, 50 cultures and completely different ways of living and thinking and moving in the world? And it's like, yeah. Pretty brutally oversimplistic, but still it's what we got to work with. And, so.
All right. Future agenda items. It appears that 6-1 is done because by the time we meet next, there will be no more council meetings after that. So they will have to either take an action or not take an action by then, if my understanding of the schedule is correct. And the other 3, I would say, could stay on the agenda. I haven't looked at the work plan in a little bit, so I don't know if there's anything else we're missing.
Would it be proper to agendize the issue of non-responsiveness from the registrar of voters? 'Cause I'm pretty concerned about it.
Huh.
I am pretty concerned
Yeah,
about
I
it.
mean, by all means.
I'm a bit outraged, actually.
I mean, I think it's definitely something we can discuss as part of the ongoing discussion around enhanced election,
But to me, it's like a separate
a separate issue.
issue. I mean, I'm a bit mind-boggled by this.
I don't know that it's in the
I'm
scope.
Yeah, that's what I was about to
I
say.
wouldn't say
Yeah.
that they're blowing me off. They're
well, that was a
not.
little strong worded, but you know.
They are, when I ask a question, they say, okay, we got to check. And then, it goes to whoever that's more experienced.
We can word this more diplomatically than I did. Nicole asked months ago. And if they're not going to respond to city clerks, then I think they need to be called on that. Whatever the subject is, it doesn't matter. A city clerk calls you, you get on it. Right? I mean,
Right, but I think that the issue is I don't think it's in the scope of this body.
I know, that's why I said, would it be proper to put it on there?
Yeah, and
You know,
I'm thinking
it's like,
not,
I
unfortunately.
suppose. Yeah.
I mean, I would say that's something you could take to the city under, the council under good of the city,
Yeah.
that the council needs to send a communication to the registrar as a body. I mean, that would be one way you could go.
Right.
But I think that would be a more proper avenue than it coming through this body.
Yeah, all right.
Well, I mean, I suppose if, as part of the agenda item for enhanced election result data, if you wanted to have something to draft that we presented to the council at a future time and ask them to follow up with the registrar, that might be appropriate. Because then it's a specific agenda item that we're referring to.
Since the registrar of voters is not responding, right?
Don't draft it right now.
But you mean something along those lines?
Something along those, or, something, a recommendation, since it'll have more weight coming from the city council.
Right,
That might be something you might want to think about.
right. Okay.
Right, so on that specific item, if the registrar is unresponsive to the city clerk, asking the questions on behalf of this body, then we could take that specific item to council.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll think about what I'm going to do about this because I'm not happy about that. It really bugs me. Anyway.
I think it's worth being bugged about. Yeah. All righty. Well, with that, unless there's anything else?
A move to adjourn?
Seconded? This is a record.
Woohoo! 8:20, are you
we
kidding
go.
me? Yeah.